Hey friends, what's up? Welcome or welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm giving you some more insight into my phone, and I thought it would actually be cool to show you how I use my phone, which I know a phone is something that we all use on a daily basis, but I wanted to share specifically how I use my Google Pixel 7 Pro and the tools that are kind of like embedded into the phone and my most frequently used apps and widgets and stuff like that to help me be productive, but also do my content creation, because I use my phone mainly for that, and I specifically got this phone for the purpose of using like the photos, the camera, stuff like that. So I'm going to actually share my phone screen like I did in last week's video to show you exactly kind of like my process of my day-to-day. I hope that makes sense, but I'm just gonna get right into it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, so this is my screen. You all know my screen by now. I put it on Do Not Disturb, and hopefully that actually is the case this time. But I did want to start by this screen. I wanted to share this screen first because first thing I do in the morning, if you're hearing jingling, those are my cats. But the first thing that I do in the morning is go through my newsfeed. Now my newsfeed is pretty much curated to my interests, my location, my Google searches, things like that. That's how it's like coming up with these article ideas. And when I'm in bed, to be honest with you, I shouldn't be doing this, but like when I wake up in the morning and I'm just like checking my phone, this is the first thing that I check. Just so that I can kind of get an idea of what's going on in the world, things that I'm interested in, because for the most part, I will not go back onto this newsfeed for the rest of the day. I just tend to be so busy that I don't get the opportunity to kind of like catch up on what's going on in the world. So this is the first thing that I do, and I like to look at this and just feel well informed on things that I'm interested in. So yeah, I wanted to start off by showing that, and I personally find this tab, which as you can see is just swiped to the side. It's embedded into the Google Pixel phones, and I find this tool to be extremely, extremely useful. I don't have to necessarily go into an additional app or remember to check X, Y, and Z publications in order to be well informed in the things that I'm interested in. So there you go, that's the first thing. And then the next thing is to check my social media accounts. So I'll open up this folder over here that I have on my homepage that has all of my social media accounts. I'm not gonna go into them individually, but this is just a broad view of the ones that I typically check. We have Instagram, TikTok, we have Lemonade there in this folder. I don't know why I divide it this way, but in this folder I have Pinterest and YouTube, Twitter, stuff like that. So I do a quick check on those things just to see what went on while I was asleep. And that's pretty much it. That's just something that I guess a content creator typically does. I don't do that while I'm in bed though. I make sure that like I go through my morning routine first before I get into all of that work related type of stuff. But that is just something that is part of my day-to-day. And then the next thing are widgets. So as you can see, I'm a big fan of widgets. They're all over my screen. And in my opinion, this is just the way that I personally prefer to set up my phone. I feel like widgets, they should be used to their greatest value, and so that's why my home screens have so many of them, because if they're good widgets and they're useful widgets, I want to use them instead of just having to manually click into individual apps. I mean, like, that's the whole point of widgets, right? So the widgets that I go into, as you can see here, I have two Google Keep widgets up at the top, these brown ones here, or orange, I don't know what you want to call them. One is personal, so as you can see, we have the week recipes on the left. That is my personal Google Keep, and then on this side we have new strategy. That probably makes no sense to some people, but this is my work Google Keep. So I like to have my personal stuff and work related stuff separate, and that's why I have two separate Google Keeps. So I go into each of them depending on whatever list that I need to look at. So I have week recipes, I have to-do lists, I have bills. I'm not gonna get that personal. And then on this side I have, you know, my new strategy stuff. I have like my to-do list for the quarterly reviews that I've talked about on this channel before, things like that. And then, yeah, those are my Google Keep widgets. The next widget that I have on this screen that I won't click into individually, but you can kind of see a preview of it, is my Notion. So my Notion has pretty much my entire life in it. So once I go through my Google Keep kind of widgets and see like my day-to-day little to-do list type of stuff, I go into my Notion that has larger boards and has like basically every thought that I can possibly hole into my brain dumped into my Notion account. So as you can see, my most recent ones are my notebook, my Liver Alone pod, which is a little secret project that I'm working on. It's not really secret. And then some other stuff, like, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I click into each of these things depending on what I'm working on. I don't click into every single one of them first thing in the morning. I just click into them throughout the day, and whatever I'm working on, I go into that board and it's easily accessible right here through my phone. So that's another really useful widget. The next widget that I have is a massive one. It's essentially just my calendar. I do it in a monthly view so that I can visually see just how hectic my calendar looks. And as you can see, with all of those colors and bars, I am quite busy this month. Lots of things going on, and I understand what's going on here, so when I look at it, I'm not as overwhelmed, but I'm sure it's probably overwhelming for some people looking at it right now. But there's an organization to this chaos, and it all makes sense to me, and a lot of these things are actually like reminders, daily reminders that I put into my calendar to, you know, visually force me to make sure that I'm doing them. I feel like sometimes that's more effective for me than like actual reminders. If I have calendar blocks that look like this, it'll kind of like entice me to get things done because I don't want it to look like this constantly, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm like scaring myself into productivity by doing that, but it works for me. As well as reminders, I have things like birthdays, events, things like that, you know, stuff that you will typically see on Google Calendar. I have videos on Google Calendar, so if you're interested in that, there's that. And this is another widget that is essentially a reiteration of this widget. So this obviously looks like a whole monthly view. This is the same exact calendar, but it is done in task view. So now, seeing all these little like blocks and colors here, I can't necessarily see them super clearly. Some of them are like cut off and they're just like visual markers. But over here, I can see them in bigger text. I can see everything a lot more broadly, and I can actually see like on Sunday, I'm working on 3 things. On Monday, I'm working on 5 things, etc., etc. So this just breaks it down and makes it visually easier to interpret, as opposed to this that just kind of visually freaks me out a little bit in a way that's productive. That sounded weird, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. So those are all of the widgets that I essentially look through throughout the day. Again, these are not things that I'm doing first thing in the morning and I'm like going through a marathon of checking things. This is just how I go about my entire day, gradually going into some programs, going into other programs, checking some things early, checking some things multiple times throughout the day, checking things at the end of the day, stuff like that. And then another widget that I wanted to mention that's not something that I manually put in here, it's all the way at the top, this, let me see if I can click on it. It clicks into my calendar, but right underneath it, you can actually see the weather. I'm not going to click into it because it'll share my location, but I also like to check my weather and stuff like that first thing in the morning so that I know what I'm going to be wearing, but also the lighting situation. Like yesterday, we were dealing with a whole lot of creepy, apocalyptic kind of sky light because of the Canadian fires that are kind of affecting the East Coast. So I wasn't able to record this video yesterday. So that's useful stuff. That's useful things that pop up over here. And you can see that the weather is 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Sometimes if there are like weather alerts, such as the air quality that I have been checking on this week, it will pop up here. I don't know why it's not popping up today. There is definitely a emergency when it comes to the air quality today as well. But usually it'll pop up and tell me like any alerts that I need to be aware of for the day. So those are all of my widgets. The next thing that I will go into, but I don't know if I should click on it, is my camera. So of course you're gonna see my foot. You're gonna see this as well. But my camera is essentially what I do to create my content. This is how I record things. This is how I take pictures, videos. All of my content for my social media happens on here, aside from my larger YouTube videos, which I'm using an external camera for that one. But yeah, I use my camera, of course. I use that every single day. I try to be a person that batch content creates, so I make a lot of content in one day and then I post throughout the week, throughout the month. I am so terrible at doing that. So I end up using my camera every single day to record a piece of content every single day, whether that's through photos, videos, etc. It's just the way that I work, and it's not the best, but that is the reality of it. And then speaking of, you know, camera content and stuff like that, I use my photo a lot, my photo folders a lot, and as you can see, I have a lot of different folders. Some of them, I am a religious photo slash GIF deleter, so if people send me GIFs like this, I am notorious for just going ahead and deleting them immediately because I need as much space as I possibly can in here. So I like to keep these things organized. As you can see, I have a content folder here as well, so I have like pieces of content that are ready to be kind of like reposted on other different social media platforms, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Reels, stuff like that. And so I go into that every single day as well. My general camera folder has everything, while other folders have things that are a little bit more specific. Like the VSCO one has a lot of my filtered and perfect, ready to be posted on social media type of photos. And yeah, everything else is kind of self-explanatory. You can see I'm keeping track of my skin there if you have been keeping up with my vlogs. But yeah, I use that folder every single day as well. The other notable things that I wanted to mention, but I'm not going to talk too much about, but I did want to mention because I do use them on a daily basis, my categorized folders. So as you saw, I clicked into a couple of them. This is like my social media one, but then I also have another one that has a few more social media things. I don't know why I divide it in this way. I think this one is more like photo, video specific, and then this one kind of like branches out just a little bit, so I keep them divided. But I have other categorized folders, like this one is sort of like my health and wellness kind of folder. This is my security folder for like my camera, my what's going on in the neighborhood type of stuff. And so those folders are super, super essential for me every single day. I go into each of these folders for different things every single day. Logan just threw something down. Anyway, I'll deal with that later. But yeah, I use those folders every single day, and I go in and out of them throughout the day. I tend to not go into this large menu over here and go through apps manually this way because that just seems overwhelming to me personally. I do have a lot of apps, as you all know, but yeah, these folders are my essentials. The other thing I wanted to mention, I'm not going to click into it, but down here is my Chrome. You can see that, I'm sure you know the logo, but I use Chrome every single day as well for so many different things, blog posts, browsing, stuff like that. Nothing fancy there. And then my Gmail, I'm not going to click into it, but you can see the little mail icon right there. I check my Gmail very frequently, all day long. I have multiple Gmail accounts, so I like to use that app because it keeps track of all of my Gmail accounts, and I don't think I have anything aside from Gmail, so that app works just fine for me. And that's pretty much it, actually. Yeah. All right, friends, I hope you like this additional insight into my phone, and I hope it's actually helpful in seeing just exactly how I use my phone on the day-to-day. I feel like I don't put those two types of content together, and so that's why this video kind of like came up into my head, because I usually do like daily vlogs where I take you throughout my entire day, but I don't show my phone, and then I do videos about my phone, but I don't tell you about like how it affects me on the day-to-day kind of. I hope that makes sense, but I hope you like to see that little fusion that I try to work into this video. Like I said in last week's video, I'm taking your suggestions, and I will absolutely do follow-up videos on whatever it is that you're interested in, because these videos are for you, and I will talk to you in next week's video.